What's going on, guys? My name is Kyle and welcome back to another Spud Cup race day. This marks round 3 of our season 4, so without wasting any time, let's jump in and see how this race went this week. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Spud Cup race day here in our Season 4. Today we're heading off to America at the Daytona International Speedway. Today's track length is a total of 5.7 kilometers with a temperature of 24 degrees. This is a very, very long track with a lot of oval corners, which is definitely going to show the MX-5's pace in the slipstream on those embankments. Let's have a quick little look now and see exactly what our results were like in our sprint race to see how our grid is going to look for the feature today. We have Dylan taking out top spot in our P1 with myself and JDM finishing out the top 3 positions. Underneath us we have Sketch, Tim, CJ, Will, Noah, Matt and Matthew taking out our top 10 positions with Dart, Jake, Mixter, Yearn, Bobby, Lynx, Jeff and Aiden doing our top 18. Underneath that we have a couple of other drivers with Tom and a dozen pickles underneath that doing the debut race in the Spud Cup here this season. So let's jump in, get ready for our formation lap because the drivers are going to be underway very, very shortly. Now things are going to look a little bit different here with this race this week. There's going to be a formation lap. So normally we start on the grid with the green flag waved, but right now we are actually doing a rolling start before the race gets underway. So you can see Dylan on the left there, myself getting a little bit far ahead, but unfortunately for me, I am in P2, which means I really need to rein it back and get ready for Dylan to get out in front. So the chicane here, we got 2 sets of chicanes through the Daytona International Speedway. The first chicane is going to be a very, very high speed, very hard on the curbs. You don't want to hit any of these sausage curbs. And the second chicane is right near the end of the race, right in the end of the lap, sorry. Very tight, very slow, and again, those sausage curbs that are aligning the sides of those chicanes are absolutely ruthless. You do not want to be near them, you do not want to hit them, because that could mean race over, or at least send you to the pits for a repair. So we can have a look at Dylan now, looking at our race leader. You can see him going through the chicane now, touches a little bit of the curb, nothing too crazy, but and he's going to be underway, waiting for the green flag to go, waiting for the green flag, you can see, waiting for it, and Dylan's going to be ready to pounce. And he does. He's going the way. You can see JDM tucking him right behind. I was a little bit late to the party, but now we are underway. The race has begun. Dylan out in front, JDM in second, and me already losing a position and heading down into P3. Behind me we have Tim and Will with CJ right behind that as well. Little bit squirrely there from everyone. Tim cutting the grass just a little bit. Dylan getting ahead, doing a very good job getting away from the pack. Everybody else doing such a good job so far. So far, so good. No dramas. Let's jump further down the grid. We can see Matthew. Everyone else, look at the cars. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Aiden there tucking him behind. Jake right there as well with Matthew out in front. This is already looking like to be a crazy, crazy race. Let's quickly jump a little further up ahead. We can see Tim going a little bit wide. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy at all. We've got Will into P4 already. Myself still in P3. Let's quickly jump up to me, Aiden, me, JDM, and Dylan. Sorry, Dylan's still out in front. JDM right behind. I'm right behind him. Tim and I are Tim and Will are tussling for position. Let's quickly have a look at them. Look at them going side by side. Will still gets out in front. Tim tucks in right behind. We have CJ right behind Timmy with Sketch behind that. Aiden and Matthew changing for position. They're changing between 12th and 13th place. Aiden now pulling out away, passing Matthew up into 12th. Now chasing down Yearn with half a second to go. Really breaking into that late, trying to get that corner as best as he possibly can. And now we are heading into the oval part of the track. Jumping back up to myself, you can see JDM 7/10ths behind Dylan. I'm 3/10ths behind JDM, and just look at the bankment. Look at how crazy the banking is here at Daytona International Speedway. Jumping on board with JDM, you can just see the absolute insane angle that is the banking here on both of these corners on Daytona International Speedway. So going into the very first chicane, we're going to stay on board with JDM and see exactly how he takes this. We're going to chuck on his speedo, see how fast he's going. 160 k's through the first part of the chicane, dropping down to 130, really using all the track that he can, just touches that sausage curb on the outside, but you can see hitting that 140 kilometers an hour, not a slow pace at all. And then we head back into another banking. Now this is the final corner of the race before we start hitting into that last chicane, and then we're back into the start-finish line. You can see myself 3/10ths behind. Looking behind, you can see, look at the cars. And the difference now is once you're in that slipstream, you can really, really collect and get as close as you possibly can. Now, the second chicane is a little bit tighter, a little bit tougher. JDM biting both of those sausage curbs, which gives me a chance to get a little bit closer, but it's also given Will a chance to close the gap behind me as well. So far, so good. No real carnage just as yet. Dylan getting fastest lap, then immediately taken back by Will. Will doing fastest lap at a 2:19.6. Very quick so far. nothing too crazy, but still a very good collected lap. JDM 7/10 behind Dylan. 7/10 behind Dylan, me 2.5 behind JDM. We're going to quickly jump on board with myself now and have a bit of a look and see how close this racing is. These MX-5s at this track specifically is really going to provide some fantastic racing, and we've seen that already in the first 2 races of the season, but round 3 definitely did not differ from that position. Tucking in right behind JDM myself, on board with me, you can see 140 kilometers, tucking in right behind him. We've got a left-hander here before we have a very deep double right, but you can see how tight these corners are. Look at this, slowing down from 4th gear. You want to get down into 2nd. I think I even shift down into 1st gear to get the rotation. We're going 160 k's down to 70 kilometers an hour, and then it is flat foot again out into this left-hander. You want to get as much pace as you possibly can for this left-hander that's going to lead you into the oval part of the track. Flat foot now through 2nd, up into 3rd, and this is where the pace comes. Will right behind me, very, very quick on the throttle. JDM still doing a very good job, 8/10 behind Dylan. Tim is now chasing down Will as well, doing a great job there from Timmy. Timmy jumping on board with him now, you can see, chasing up behind Will. And again, the oval part of these tracks is where you're going to really make up a lot of these positions and a lot of the pace that you're going to find throughout the day. So you can see Timmy now, 197, 200 kilometers, braking 200 k's in the MX-5, and look how close he's getting up behind Will. Is he going to make a move on him? He got very close, a little bit of a nudge, nothing too crazy. Let's see them go through this part of the track here. Will doing a great job sticking behind me, 3/10. Tim, 2.5 behind Will again. Jumping back on board with Tim. A little bit of squirrel in from there from Will. That's given Tim the opportunity to tuck in right behind him and make a move up on the inside. That's Tim moving his way up into P4, getting past Will on lap 2, 5 minutes into our 40-minute session. That has given him the chance. And we've also got to move from the lead. We've got JDM and Dylan side by side through the 2nd chicane. Let's see how they go. Dylan squeezing his way back through. JDM tucking right behind. Can we get on board? JDM trying to get behind. Dylan mounts the curb on both exit and entry. Absolutely insane. You gives me that with a chance. I am right behind him now with a chance to catch JDM, but so far so good. That is absolutely aggressive cornering there from the guys through the 2nd chicane, but that just goes to show their confidence in the car. I just got fastest lap of the race with a 2:18.8. Mixed up completely obliterated that time with a 2:18.1. You can see everybody being very, very close, and you don't want to get out of the slipstream here in these cars, because the minute you lose that slipstream, it is going to make it incredibly difficult for you to catch back up. You can see Tim 3/10 behind Will, Will 3/10 behind me, I'm 3/10 behind JDM, and JDM 3/10 behind Dylan. So it is a very, very close grid so far. Mixed up 1.2 seconds behind Tim, and Sketch is 1.3 seconds. I think we've got an issue. I think Sketch has gone off. I think Sketch slightly went off track just a little bit because he's dropped down to 1.4 seconds, but there's still a very, very close distance between the guys behind that. CJ 2/10 behind Sketch, Aiden 2/10 behind CJ. Everybody is very, very close. Let's jump back up to the guys at the front and see exactly what's happening with this pack here. JDM gets a little bit squirrely. Let's jump on board myself. You can see making a move up on the inside. JDM is going to get the inside for this left-hand corner, but that's not a big of a deal because you want to get a better exit, a better line through this corner, which is going to give you the chance to potentially get an overtake with this slipstream. JDM taking it a little bit narrower than myself. I go a little bit wider, nothing too crazy just yet. You got Will right behind me with Tim 2/10 behind JDM. Will 2/10 behind Will. Let's jump on board with Tim now. You can see, look how close he is. We are not even at the peak, at the very center of this banking corner just yet, which is going to give Tim the chance. Tuck in right behind. He makes a move to the outside. He swings back to the inside for the first chicane. Can Tim hold on? Can Tim hold on? I'm trying to defend. I'm trying to make a move on JDM as well. I'm trying to make a move on JDM. I get past JDM. Tim tucks in right in front of Will. That makes Tim up into P4. JDM drops down to P3. I've made my way up into P2. So far, so good. That is Tim chasing down JDM as well. Look at the pace on Timmy today. He is absolutely showing the absolute pace in this Mazda. Great job from him so far. We are 6 minutes in to this 40-minute session, and it's already showing to be such an incredible race. This is where things are going to get hairy now. We're heading from the first chicane down to the second chicane to just look. We can stay on board with Tim. Look how tight of a corner this is. I mount that first part of the curb. Tim does the same. It gets the car a little bit sideways, nothing too crazy, but this is going to give JDM the opportunity to catch me and overtake me, which he does. He gets just past me on the inside line through here. Can he hold it through? Can he hold it through? He can. He makes the move stick already. I'm going to have to try and tuck in, but Tim pokes his nose. Tim pokes his nose in, tries to get an overtake to the first corner. I don't quite let it happen. I box him off just a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Tuck in right behind JDM. 1.5 tenths behind him. Let's look at JDM's behind his car. Look how close Look how close that Midnight Tune Company MX-5 is to the back of JDM's vehicle. American move on the outside. JDM blocks off the door and holds the inside line. I get a better exit with any luck, but I can try and take him. Still very, very close. You can see putting the pressure on JDM. Dylan is now 1 second ahead of JDM. Pulling away. Pulling away. This is already looking to be such an interesting race, and I cannot wait to see how this turns out for the rest of the grid. We've got myself only a 10th behind him. Let's have a look now. You can see the pressure. A 10th behind JDM is myself. Tim is right behind me. Will and Mixter right behind Timmy. We've got a little bit of a gap there to Sketch out in the background. 2.5 seconds to Mixter from Sketch, but he's not going to take a very long time to make that position back and get just that little bit closer. Let's have a look now at our sectors and see exactly what it looks like for JDM, Dylan, and myself. You can see Sector 1 for Dylan was his best so far, but he's been faster in Sector 2 and Sector 3. I don't know if that's just raw pace or if that is because we're trying to battle down in those lower positions, but Dylan is already showing such an incredible pace here today at the Daytona International Speedway. I am 1/10 behind JDM. Can I make a move here? I make a move up on the inside. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it to stick, but I make a move up on the inside. Side by side, I have to tuck back in. I have to tuck back in, get back on the brakes, try and make a good line through here. Mixter now gets Will. Mixter overtakes Will. They are very, very close, the two of them as well. Mixter and Will Spark going through the first chicane. Mixter makes his move, gets the opportunity to pass, passes him to the first chicane. That means Mixter tucking in right behind Tim. You can see the distance. The pack is just out in front. Aiden right behind. Mixter makes the move and gets the move stuck. Mixter out in front. Right behind Mixter is myself. I'm losing positions. Let's jump up to the guys at the front. I'm now down into 4th. This is very, very close. Very, very close. Jumping on board with myself. You can see Tim and JDM battling it out. They make contact. They make contact. JDM and Tim hit. They make contact. JDM has spun. He's now down into 6th. He's going to have to try and do the rejoin, but that's going to give Aiden the opportunity to pass. JDM is now going to lose for Sketch. CJ is also going to get the chance to pass him if he can't get up. That is very, very close. Very, very close. You can see CJ just making a move on the outside there. Tim now up into P2. What a very, very tight part to go too wide through that track. Very brave, but unfortunately just didn't work out in the favor of the guys. That is just such an unfortunate way to get taken out in the 5th lap of today's race. And it's so unfortunate. But like I said, you've got to really be conscious through those parts of the chicane because it is not going to hold back and it is not going to be very forgiving for those parts of the racetrack today. Looking at Tim now, you got myself taking down right behind him. Very, very close. I'm a 5/10 behind, half a second behind Tim. Mixter 3/10 behind me. Will 6/10 behind him. And then there's a little bit of a gap to Aiden. CJ is now 1.5 right behind. I'm making my move, just getting a little bit closer. Timmy gets a little squirrely, nothing too crazy, loses control of the rear end. That gives me the chance to get some traction. I'm trying to chase him down, trying my best to get a bit closer. I'm now 2/10 behind Tim. This is going to be tight. Tim goes a little bit wide. You can see him in the distance. Dylan pulling away. Right behind, you can see the train of MX-5s starting to form. The pace, look at my delta. Slowly, getting a little bit closer. Can I stick it? I get a little bit closer to Tim. Mixter right behind him as well. This is going to be very tight to the first chicane. Looking on board, you can see Tim. Mixter right behind. Mixter's going to make his way up on the inside. He makes on his way to the outside. I thought he was going to thread the needle, but he doesn't quite do it. Mixter tucks in right behind. That's going to give Tim the opportunity to try. He gets overtaken by Will. Tim and Will touch. Will makes a very brave move. Left it very, very late to try and make that overtake happen, but he makes it stick. I don't know exactly what's going to happen there with the race stewards, but that was a very, very late decision to make that overtake happen. Jumping up now, you can see Mixter up into P3. I'm up into P2. Will P4. Tim P5. There has been such a change in the leadership in the way of the grid so far today. Dylan now 2.5 seconds out in front, absolutely killing it in this MX-5. You can see both my Mixter and myself absolutely eating those sausage curbs in the final chicane of today's racetrack. So far, so good. Tim gets past Will. They're battling through the second chicane. I didn't even see it happen. Side by side. Will on the inside. Timmy just on the out. Can Tim get enough pace to get past him for the first corner? This is going to be very, very close. Aiden now doing a 217, sorry, my apologies. 217 so far. Will on the inside. Tim going a little bit wide, but he gets the power down. Tim up into second. He just tucks out right in front of Will, but Will is still very, very close to him. He's not going to hold back. You can see as well, right behind Will is Aiden. Right in front of him is Tim. Will makes a move up on the inside. He makes it stick. Tim gets a little bit squirrely, but Will gets on the inside. Aiden also gets on the inside. This is very tight. You can see the guys right behind him battling side by side to this part of the track. Let's quickly jump to Aiden and Tim because they're getting a bloody good show so far. 1/10 between them. Aiden in P6, Tim in P5. There is less than a tenth between the two. Aiden on the outside of the double right. Tim making his way across the apex as we speak. Aiden trying to do the cutback. Very, very close. Aiden gets a nose in. Very close to the side of him. Timmy is still going to have the inside line, but they are side by side going through the left-hander before the first embankment. Literally less than half a tenth between them. Tim getting on the inside, Aiden on the out. This is going to give Tim the opportunity to hold that inside line, but unfortunately for him, Aiden is going to get the slipstream. Aiden's going to get right behind Tim's car, get the slipstream heading into the first chicane. Let's jump on board with Aiden now. Aiden in fourth gear, 180 kilometers an hour, banking up to the outside of the bank. He's going to be side by side with Tim heading into the first chicane. Mixter, less than a tenth to myself as well. Mixter right behind me. We're going to have to jump up and see that as well. Mixter making a move on the outside of the chicane. He backs off just a little bit. Let's jump back down to Tim and Aiden. Aiden making a move. Tim's still on the inside. Aiden gets a little bit closer. Aiden makes the move. That's Aiden up into P5. Tim in P6 through the first chicane of today's racetrack. We're on lap 6, 13 and a half minutes into our 40-minute session, and Tim has just lost out that P5 position to Aiden, but the race is not done. The thing that you can tell with this race session is the slipstream is crucial. Aiden now as well getting on the outside of Will. Can he make that happen? Can he hold on through this part of the track before the first chicane, before the end of the last chicane, sorry. Aiden and Will make contact. They absolutely smash into each other. Will now gets spun around. He's stuck in the middle of the last chicane. Will trying his best to get back on the track in a safe manner, but he's had to hold the brakes through the second chicane. That was absolutely intense. Aiden and Will side by side nudge. That is nuts. Will having to lose out. Will is now down to P9. Aiden made his way up to P4. Again, I don't know what's going to happen there with the race stewards, but I'm sure Tom is going to have a look at that one and replay that to see exactly what happened through that part of the track. Let's jump up now. You got myself, has made my way up to P2. I've made my way up into P2. I've overtaken Mixter P3, Aiden P4, Tim P5, Sketch and JDM are now in P6 and 7, with CJ, Will, and Matthew finishing out our top 10 so far. Everyone is still very, very close to each other with some small pockets of gap. You got CJ 4/10 behind JDM, CJ 8th, JDM 7th. Dart and Noah are both changing positions. Let's jump to them. You can see that SpongeBob livery rocked by Dart. Noah right behind him. This is very, very close. Very, very close. Sorry, my mistake. Dart in the white livery. Noah in the SpongeBob livery. Can't believe I got that bloody wrong. SpongeBob all the way. You can see... You can see Dart just out in front, very, very close. They're in 12th and 13th. Noah, 2.5 tenths behind Dart. You've got Mixter in 3rd, 3 tenths behind me in P2. CJ is 4 tenths behind JDM. He is in P8, and everyone is still very, very close. The good battle here between Noah and Dart. You can see them going straight through this part of the track, double right. They're about to head up into the embankment and start catching the gap. If you see the track map on the top right-hand side, you can see the difference in some of these packs. You've got Dylan out in front by himself. Me and Mixter side by side, and then you've got everybody from Aiden down to Sketchkov in their own little pack. You've got CJ and JDM in their own little pack, and then you've got everybody else as well right underneath that with Will, Matthew, and Jake again in their own little pack. Let's jump up to our leaders now and see Matthew making a move on JDM. This is going to be very, very close. They're going through the first chicane here. Matthew backs out. Will gets past. Will makes the overtake happen. Matthew backs down, gets into the second part of the chicane. Jake's chasing him down. Let's jump on board with Matthew. You can see Jake chasing him down in that slipstream. JDM is now 2 tenths behind CJ. Mixter still 5 tenths behind me. Sketch and Tim make a move. Sketch and Tim make a move. What is going to happen here? Sketch is now coming into the pits? No, he's going on the inside line of the second chicane. That is very, very close. The minute you come out of the chicane, the second chicane, the pit entry is on the left-hand side. So if you get a little bit close, the overlay freaks out and thinks that you're heading into pit lane. Sketch now 1 second behind Aiden with 5 tenths to him. Behind is Tim. This is very, very tight between the guys up in front. Dylan's still commanding a lead. Let's jump up to myself and Mixter in P2 and 3. Mixter 6 tenths behind me going through the right-hander before you enter the first little inside part of the oval here. Mixter 5 tenths behind. Dylan now a 4-second lead. Absolutely killing it and showing his pace here today in the MX-5. Now, underneath us, you have Aiden in 4 seconds of a gap between 3 and 4, which is Aiden and Mixter. Sketch is now 8 tenths behind Aiden with Tim, 8 tenths behind Sketch. Jake is 4 tenths behind Matthew in P11, and CJ is making a move up on JDM. Let's quickly jump to them. They're side by side. Can he make that stick? He does. CJ gets on the inside. JDM gets a little bit squirrely. JDM loses the control. JDM gets a little bit squirrely, tries to do the overcorrect. He corrects, but gets thrown out into the grass. That's going to give that's going to give CJ the opportunity to peel away just a little bit. You can see him in the distance, absolutely going. Absolutely going. You can't even see CJ. Looking back in front of the car, can't even see CJ out in the distance. Here he is up on the bankment. You can see him now. CJ and Tim. Tim is now being overtaken by CJ as well. What is going on here, guys? What is going on here? CJ just got JDM, has now made his way past Tim as well, up into P6. Incredible driving here from CJ, absolutely insane. The progression, CJ is one of those drivers, the progression that we've seen from him throughout the last couple of seasons of the Spud Cup has been absolutely insane, and it is such a cool thing to see the improvement and the growth in a driver over several different cars. It's such a cool thing to see. Let's jump on now to Mixter and myself in P2 and P3. I'm still holding that second place position, but it is not looking very good for myself. Jumping on board with Mixter, 200 kilometers heading into the second chicane. Doing my best to get a good line. I touched the curb just a little bit, nothing too crazy. Mixter still right behind me, tucking in. He's 3 tenths behind, using that slipstream to his full advantage. Dylan now doing a lap of 2:18 flat. Not the fastest that he's done today, nor the fastest of the race, but a bloody good lap nonetheless. I've done a 2:19 flat, which just goes to show that I'm a second off Dylan's pace without Dylan even really trying. Mixter 2 tenths behind, going through the first corner here. You can see really, really close to the two of us here. Tim as well, 1 tenth behind CJ. Let's quickly jump to them and see what's going on here. Going through turn 1, CJ still out in front, still keeping in. Tim goes on the inside. CJ tries to get the foot down, but he can't quite make it happen. Tim is going to be up on the inside here. Tim's going to get up on the inside. He does. We're side by side through this part of the track. Just gets out in front. What is going to happen here? CJ still on the inside. Can he poke a nose in? Tim closes the door off. Tim makes his pace back. Tim's back up to 6th. CJ 7th. Tim has now regained his position. Great driving all around from the guys. Let's quickly jump up as well. We've got Jake in P10. 3 tenths behind Matthew. Let's quickly jump to them and see exactly what's happening with those drivers. Now they're heading through the right-hander before the inside part of the track. First gear, 100 kilometers an hour in this Mazda. You can see Jake's 3 tenths behind, jumping on board with him. You can see Matthew's yellow and blue livery. Car number 7 just out in front, doing a bloody good job of keeping Jake at bay. Noah now 4 tenths behind Dart in P12. Doing a good job so far. Matthew getting a little bit squirrely. That's given Jake the opportunity to tuck in right behind him, get a little bit closer. He's now 5 tenths behind Matthew. Now this is going to be crucial, make or break in this situation. If Jake can get a little bit closer, this is going to get him the chance to get that slipstream happening within the first part of the banking. Now we've just hit the 20-minute mark. We are halfway through today's race so far. And this is where fuel and pit stops are going to come into play. You will not make the full race on a single tank of fuel. You are going to have to pit at one point or another. So we'll see exactly how people are going to plan their pit stops and who's going to try and get fuel and at what point. You can see Jake now using the slipstream to his full advantage, making up 3 tenths on Matthew through that part of the track. He's now 2.5 tenths behind, heading into the first chicane. It's going to come down to who has a better line through the chicane. We'll stay on board with Jake. Stay on board with him in P10 to see what happens. Oh, a little bit shallow there from Jake. That's going to give Matt the chance to start pulling away, and he does. Matthew now a second in front of Jake. Dart and Noah going side by side through the chicane. Noah tucks in right behind, gets a little bit on the grass, nothing too crazy. That's going to give Dart's out in front. Very, very close. Let's quickly jump up because everyone's coming into the pits. Everybody is now coming into the pits. You can see Mixter out in front. He's overtaking me in the pits. Dylan, the leader, he's out in the pits. Everyone is now stopping. I've made the mistake. I stopped way too late. I was way too early on the brakes, and that's given Mixter the opportunity. He's now in the pits as well, and he's going to overtake me in the pits. Look at all the drivers coming in. Tim's coming in. CJ, Aiden, JDM, Matthew, Jake. Everybody is coming into the pits. Dylan, our race leader, is still in pit lane. He is ready to start, and Dylan's off. Let's have a look now. We want to keep eyes on Mixter. The Mixter is now out. How long are we going to have to wait? We're still waiting. Mixter's coming out of the pits, and now I'm out. Mixter's made an overtake by not a small margin. That's a 4-second lead Mixter has just gained by his pit stop. That's an incredible job by him. Oh my God, that was close. Well done to him. I can't even bloody talk. I'm so gobsmacked. Sketch is now 1.5 seconds behind myself. Aiden, 5.5 seconds to Sketch in P5. Tim, 1.5 seconds behind that. Everyone now coming out of pit lane. Let's jump to the guys. You can see pit exit is absolutely rife with people leaving the pits and coming back out onto the racetrack. CJ now coming to the right-hand side. Now, this is where the grid's going to start to settle down because you should be able to get to the end of today's race on this tank of fuel. You may have to save some. You might have to be a little bit more conservative with the way you put your foot down, but you should be able to get to the end with this single tank of fuel. We'll see exactly how that happens for most of these drivers, but so far, everything looks to be going to plan for a lot of individuals. Let's jump up now and see Dylan, our race leader, absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. He is 4 seconds ahead of Mixter, and Mixter is 5.5 seconds ahead of myself. He could be solidifying his race win, and Mixter could be solidifying his P2 position, but we're going to have to find out and see exactly what happens before the end of today's race. Again, like I said, it's a 40-minute session. We are only 23 minutes into this session today. We have 17 minutes left of today's race, so it's down but not out. Nobody is done until it's over. Tim is now closing in. Let's jump up to Tim. We can see him closing into JDM. Not closing JDM, sorry, closing into Aiden. I'm losing my mind. Tim is now 7 tenths behind. Look at how close he is. He's catching up. This slipstream is killing it. 220 kilometers, I think I saw on Tim's dashboard. Really, really close. Trying to use as much as he can, but now the cars are going to be a hell of a lot heavier than they were before we came into the pits. The cars had no fuel, and everyone stopped at the same time, which means that everyone used the last little amount of fuel they had. So that was the lightest point that car's going to be, and now you're back to the heaviest point the car's going to be. It's going to make it quite difficult to try and gauge exactly how hard you can throw this car in with that drastic change in weight, but I'm sure we're going to find out together, and everyone's going to be in the same boat. You can see Tim now's made up half a second on Aiden through that first chicane. Aiden hits both curbs as well. Tim gets a little bit squirrely on the exit of the second chicane. Touching that curb is a no-no. You do not want to do it because it really, really unsettles the car. Mixter now 3.5 seconds to Dylan. Mixter is putting the pace down and doing his absolute best to catch him. Mixter's best lap for record is a 2:17.1. Dylan's is a 2:17.9. That just goes to show the pace that Mixter has in this MX-5 and potentially how much of a difference that slipstream does make. Let's jump down to P10 with Jake Williams. Jake is now in P10. He's 2.5 tenths, right behind Matthew, and they're going through turn 1. Let's see exactly what happens here. Jumping on board with him, you can see Matthew out in the distance. 5 tenths in front. Yearn now coming into the pits in P14. Jake, 4.5 tenths behind. Now you can see as well the sun is starting to go down. We have 15 minutes left of this race session. Headlights are on, track lights are on, and this is going to be a very interesting end. Jake going a little bit wide there, nothing too crazy through the right-hander. It's going to start to get dark. It's going to start to lose some light, and we're going to have to rely on headlights and on track lights. This is the first night race, I guess we'll call it, in the Spud Cup Season 4 so far, so I cannot wait to see exactly what happens here on track and how much of a difference that makes. Jake getting very close there to Matthew. Will right behind Jake as well, now 4.5 tenths. Let's jump up to Sketch. We can see him, Sketch, 8.5 tenths behind myself. You can see him in the distance there, chasing me down. You see that pink roll cage of myself trying to get through the first chicane there. Sketch really putting the pace down in this vehicle, showing exactly why he's a force to be reckoned with. Right behind us, kind of a good line by myself, but nothing too crazy. Sketch really putting down the pace and putting the pressure on. 8 tenths behind me now. The slipstream is going to bring that down to probably about half a second. We'll see exactly what happens there before the end of this lap. Will is now getting chased down. He's chasing down Jake, 4.5 tenths from Jake to Will. Will is also chasing down Jake, 3.5 tenths to Matthew. This is so close. It's going to be tight between the guys here for the first corner. They're going through the chicane. They're going through the first chicane here. Will doing a bloody good job. Great line there by Will. Jake going a little bit wide, but Will is now 2.5 tenths behind him. Great job. Jumping on board with him. Let's now have a look. And you can just see, this just goes to show the difference in the light over the last couple of laps. Jake is now being chased down by Will. Headlights are on. Everyone's putting pressure on. Car number 209, the white car out in front, which is Mr. Jake Williams. Going through the second chicane now. Will trying to be a little bit aggressive, breaks himself. He out-brakes himself, gets a little bit late, mounts the curb. Jake panics with that pressure. gets a little bit squirrely as well, and that giving Jake the chance to get out in front, but Will's still right behind him, tucking in right behind Jake, heading into turn 1. What is going to happen here? I'm nervous. You're nervous. We're both nervous. This is going to be very, very tight. Noah now coming into the pits, and you can see Jake is holding off Will very, very close. Will on the outside. Will makes a move on the outside. Jake tries to block off. Hold the door. Closed. Can't get it open for Will. Will really putting the pressure on him. Really putting the pressure on him. You can see Jake side by side. You can barely see the cars. That's given Will the opportunity to get up on the inside of the right-hander through the center section of the track, and he makes it happen. A little bit messy, but look at the rotors on these MX-5s. The tires and the brakes are on fire. Absolutely screaming for some cool air. Look at them. Bright red, glowing in the night. Doing such a great job with everybody getting these cars really up to operating temperature and pushing them to the absolute limits. Where you got to think, going through those oval parts of the track, you are putting the power down to then have to slow down really quickly and quite harsh for these chicanes is going to make it very, very taxing on the braking system of these MX-5s. Good thing they're virtual and we don't have to pay for replacement parts, because I can imagine that thing would be melting like a bit of hot chocolate in a cup of coffee. If that's something you're into, I don't know why I said that. It makes it sound quite strange. JDM now up into P8. Let's jump up to him. You can see him 2/10 right behind CJ. Quickly behind him now. CJ going through the first chicane. Little bit wider than JDM. JDM getting a better line through the chicane. CJ under pressure. JDM right behind him. You can see now, look at the difference a good exit out of the chicane makes. CJ 0.5 really under pressure from JDM. JDM less than a tenth behind him. You're going to stay on board with him now and see exactly how this turns out. Really, really close from him there. Really, really close from him there. So far, so good. So far, so good coming through this part of the track. We're going to jump now. Look at the second chicane. This is going to be very, very, very tight. JDM makes a move on the outside. CJ still right behind him. This is absolutely insane. Great overtake there from JDM. Makes the move stick through the second chicane and gets the position held. That's JDM up to P7. Tim in P6. Aiden in P5. Sketch P4. Myself in P3. Mixter in P2. And Dylan still out in front. Large and in charge in P1. There's now a 5-second difference between Dylan and Mixter in P2. JDM going a little bit wide there. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy at all. You can see Jake as well. 4/10 behind him. Let's jump to Jake. 4/10 behind Will. Really, really close driving from the guys here. There's been some great racing throughout this part of the Spud Cup so far. Round 1 was insane. Round 2 was just as incredible. And round 3 is definitely providing the same high speed, high pressure racing that we've seen so far throughout Season 4 in these MX-5s. And I cannot wait to see some races that are coming up. I cannot wait to see them out on the track. Now you can see as well, Will trying to take away. He is getting just out in front, just a little bit out in front from Jake. Jake now going to have to get a little bit closer, because if he does start to pull away a little bit further, it's going to be impossible for Jake to get back up into that slipstream, or it's going to make it a lot harder, I should say, for Jake to get up in that slipstream and really take full advantage of the benefit you get by being that close to the car in front. You can see myself as well. I'm 3.7 seconds. Let's jump up to me. 3.7 seconds behind Mixter. Jumping on board with me now. You can see going through the first chicane. Mixter is already entering the chicane now. Quite a bit of a distance. We are 30 minutes in. We are within the last 10 minutes of today's race. A very conservative line there through the first chicane for myself. That's not a great start. If I'm going to catch Mixter, I need to put the foot down. CJ, let's jump to him right behind JDM. Doing a bloody good job of holding on 7/10 behind him, going through the chicane, jumping on board with CJ now. You can see him. That livery looks absolutely insane. CJ's livery always looks great, and looking on board with it now in the light of these track lights really shows the full effect of how incredible that workmanship is. That's such a great job. I could look at that livery all day, but we're here to watch a race. But this just really takes my breath away. CJ now 1 second behind JDM. Will 7/10 behind Matthew as well. We should probably start looking at other cars. Otherwise, the rest of this replay is just going to be looking at CJ's livery. JDM gets a little bit cautious on that curb. Bites the second part, but that gives CJ the chance to get a bit closer. Will jumping down as well, down into P10. You can see Will chasing down Matthew, jumping on board with him. You can see Matt heading into the second chicane now. Doesn't quite hit that first curb. Will very tight on the inside there. Matthew eating that first chicane. Eating that first curb, in the chicane. But look how close that's given Will. Will is now 3/10 behind him, and he's going to use the slipstream through this part of the start-finish line of the oval section to get a little bit closer. He's going to make a move. Is he going to try and put a nose in? Let's find out. I don't know if he will, but we're going to see. God, Matt holding on just a little bit. Will still right behind. Closing the door just as best as possibly can. But Matthew, car number 7, really doing a good job defending. Fantastic work from him so far. Such a great drive. You can see now, can he make the move? Is Will going to put his nose in? Is Will going to make a move? Will locks up. That whole front right tire stopped rotating completely. Absolutely locked it up entirely. I'd hate to pay for some new bloody tires for Will because they'd be flat spotted before the end of the race. That's insane. Will now 1.5 tenths behind. I can't say anything because look how bloody close he is now. Look how freaking close he is now to Matthew. He makes a move. He doesn't quite get it to stick. Matthew closes the door, but that forces him to go a little bit wide. Will holds back and gets to make the move. Will now overtaking up to P9. That's Matthew down to P10 and looking out behind Will. You can see right behind Matthew comes Mr. Jake Williams in P10 and P11, chasing that P10 position, wants to get up into the top 10, and this is very, very close. Very, very close indeed. Matthew now at a benefit being right behind Will because it's going to give him the chance to get in that slipstream and really take full advantage. But Matthew takes a high line, gets around the guys. You can see Matthew now tucking back in behind him. Jake right behind him now again. Look, Matt using the full benefit of that slipstream. Makes his way back out to the outside. They're going to be side by side heading through the chicane. Side by side, Will up on the inside. Who's going to back out first? I don't think it'll be Will. I don't think it'll be Matt. Let's see what happens. Matthew backs out. Matthew backs out, forces him a little bit wider, but that's going to give him the chance to really claim it in. Look at that. Will, little bit too wide. That gives Matt the chance to overtake him. Is that going to give the chance to Jake as well? That is absolutely great driving there from Matthew. Fantastic job. Keep it under pressure. Keep it calm. Do a bloody great job of taking those opportunities when they present themselves. Now Jake, a tenth behind Will. Will, 5 tenths behind Matthew still. They're going through this part of the track. They're going to be heading through the second chicane. Matthew, so far so good. Looking like a clean line. Doesn't hit the curbs. Great job by Matt. That's an incredible exit. Also from Will and from Jake. That's probably the cleanest exit out of the second chicane that I've seen so far. Let's quickly jump as well up to our race leader, Mr. Dylan Gray, is 7 seconds, not 7 tenths, 7 seconds ahead of Mixter in P2, with myself 3 seconds behind Mixter. I am chasing him down. It was 4 seconds. It's now 3.1. I really want to try and get a little bit closer. We are now 34 minutes into today's race session. We have 6 minutes left. Only 6 minutes left of today's race. It's now or never. If you're going to make a move, if you're going to set up for an overtake, you better start thinking about how you're going to do it now. Will is now 3 tenths behind Matthew. Jake is now 1.2 seconds behind Will. What happened to Jake? Jake must have lost control or had a little bit of a problem with an exit of a corner because he's now 1.2 seconds behind him, and Will is now putting the pressure back on Matthew to get that little bit closer. You can see Will in the red Macca's car, Matthew in the yellow car. Jake gets a little bit squirrely there from Jake. Touch the curb just a little bit too hard, and that's going to throw your traction and throw the rear end of that car. I've done that so many times in practice, and I'm surprised that it hasn't happened more. Jake a little bit wide through that part of the track. Just abandoned that tight line. That's given Will now a 2-second difference to Jake. Will is now 6 tenths behind Matthew. CJ 6 tenths behind JDM. Let's quickly jump back up to our leaders because I want to see exactly how this is going to turn out for the guys out in front. Dylan still a 7-second lead. Mixter 3.3 seconds in front of myself. This is going to make it a very, very difficult part of the race because if you make a mistake, you are going to really suffer if the car behind you can make up that distance. I've now made my way up 2.8 seconds behind Mixter. It was 4 seconds. It's now 2.6 seconds. I don't know how much of 2.7 seconds. I don't know how much of an exit I had, but Mixter's last lap right there was a 2:19.2. Mine was a 2:18.7. So I'm definitely getting some bloody quick laps on the board. Maybe Mixter's trying to save some fuel. He might be trying to save some fuel. Having a look at our sectors here now, you can see sector 1 for Mixter, 20.1. I was 2 tenths faster. I might get an opportunity here to catch Mixter. Sketch was 0.21 seconds faster than myself. this is going to be very close. This could be a very, very close finish to today's race. Let's go through Sector 2, exactly how fast Mixter was through Sector 2. Waiting for him to finish up through here, Mixter. Sector 2, 21.5. I was down by a 10th. That means I'm still up by a 10th on the lap, and as well, Sketch was down a 10th on Sector 2. Mixter's Sector 2 looking very, very clean, very, very controlled. Let's go now. I can see exactly how Sector 3 is going to look. 14.1 seconds for Sector 3. I was very close, half a 10th off. Sketch was 2/10 off that lap in Sector 2. This is going to be very, very tight. Very, very tight between the drivers up ahead. I can see myself 2.6 seconds behind Mixter. Mixter out in front in P2, sorry, and Dylan 8 seconds ahead, which is just absolutely insane. 8-second lead is almost impossible to make up within the next 3 minutes of today's race. You can see the headlights flashing in the distance because that is absolutely crucial at the moment with the darkness peeling in and the sun going down. Sector 4 for Mixter is a 35.5. I was very, very close. So we're looking at Dylan. What am I looking at? We're looking at Dylan. We don't want to look at that. We want to look at Sketch and myself. What's going on here? Sector 4 for Mixter, 35.6. I was a little bit faster and Sketch was a little bit slower. But you can see the lap times are very, very consistent, very, very similar across the board. You can see going through the Bankman part now, looking at lap times. Hopefully it'll show a respective look at the laps so far that we've got. Last lap for myself was a 219.6. Sketch was 6 seconds slower, which means he must have had a slight incident earlier on in today's race. Jumping up to Mixter now, you can see him going through the chicane. That's given me the opportunity to get a little bit closer again. Looking behind Mixter, you can see me chasing him down a little bit closer. Closer, slowly. We are now 37.5 minutes into today's race. 38 minutes, may as well say. 38 minutes in today's race. 2 minutes left. We only have 2 minutes left of today's race session, and you can see now it's complete darkness almost. The sun is just holding on. We have Dylan out with an 8-second lead. Mixter in P2. I'm 2 seconds behind Mixter in P3. Sketch, 4.5 seconds in P4. Aiden is less than a second to Sketch in P5. Tim holding on to P6 with JDM chasing 7/10 behind. You've got Matthew as well holding on to P9 with Jake less than half a second behind. Sketch makes a move on Aiden. How in the hell did that happen? Sketch makes a move on Aiden. Oh God, Sketch has gone off. That's given Aiden the opportunity to get past him, and now Tim is less than 2 seconds to Sketch. That's not such an unfortunate thing. Such an unfortunate thing to see. The last thing you want in the last little bits of the race is to have a little bit of an accident for someone to get an easy move on you. Unfortunate for Sketch, but he can still make it back. He's 4 seconds behind Aiden. Pressure's on now within the last minute of today's race. We have 1 minute left. I think this is going to be white flag waved for a lot of drivers so far. We'll find out exactly what's going to happen for the guys up ahead, but I don't know how I've done it, but I've made myself up to 1.5 seconds behind Mixter. If I can get up into his slipstream, we could be making this happen. 39 minutes into today's session. We have less than a minute left. We're counting down to the final 60 seconds of today. Mixter, 1.2 seconds ahead. Can we get a good run out of the first chicane here? Mixter gets a very conservative line, does a bloody good job of holding it on. I'm flat foot, trying to hold on to get a bit closer. 1.2 seconds. Mixter got a better exit than myself, but now I'm going to get the slipstream. I'm in the slipstream of Mixter. What is going to happen here? Do we have one more lap left? Have we got a final lap of today's race? I don't know if we're going to be able to cross the line in this, make the checkered flag. I think we have one more to go. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see exactly what happens here. 1 second behind Mixter. Checkered flag has been waved. I take a dive. Oh my God, lock up. I go over the curb. That was absolute desperation. I tried to hold on for as long as possible, but I couldn't quite make it happen, and then panicked and tried to slow down the car. Dylan has now crossed the line with our race winner. P1 position for Dylan. Mixter in P2 takes our second podium position with myself out in P3. You've got Dylan P1, Mixter P2, myself in P3, Aiden P4, and Sketch P5 with Tim 6, JDM 7th. This is such a crazy race. Looking down the grid now, you've got Jake and Matthew battling for position. Final part of the track. This is going to be very close for the guys here. Oh God, Matthew eats the first curb. Jake gets him on the inside. He makes the move on him in the second chicane. Jake now makes his way up to P9. He gets the overtake done in the final chicane and the final section, the last little bit of today's race, and gets that position down. Incredible job by Jake. What an overtake under pressure. Matthew, unfortunately, ate that curb. That was such an unfortunate way for Matt to finish up. Jake really putting the pressure down and making a great decision for an overtake. Well done to him. Incredible work. Incredible work. What a race, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at the top 5 with Dylan, Mixter, myself, Aiden, and Sketch. That was absolutely insane. Congratulations to Dylan for taking out our race win today. Incredible driving. Mixter as well. Incredible driving. Great defense and great opportunity taking that you found yourself in today. That just goes to show when you're patient and you know what you're doing, you can really take it full advantage of the other drivers on the grid. Incredible racing across the board, guys. Well done. Let's have a quick look now at our feature results and see exactly how our race looked across the board. We go a little bit further up. We're looking down at the bottom at the moment. We've got Dylan in P1, Mixter in P2, with myself in P3. They are our podium sitters for round 3 here in season 4 of the Spud Cup. Underneath that, we have Aiden and Sketch taking out top 5s. Tim, JDM, CJ, Jake, and Matthew taking out top 10s. Underneath that, we have Dart in P11, Will in P12, Yearn 13, Lynx 14, Noah, Jeff, Bobby, Matt, Tom, and a dozen pickles taking out our top 20. Incredible racing across the board. You guys really did put it in and show how good of drivers you are today. The pressure was on, the pace was there, and the battling was absolutely to die for. Incredible driving across the board, and I'm so proud to see how clean this race was. I expected a hell of a lot more damage. I expected a lot more incidents, but so far it looks like the racing is going to be a lot cleaner than we anticipated, and I cannot wait to see what race 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is going to look like. If round 3 looks like this, the end of the season is going to be absolutely insane. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and taking part in the Spud Cup. I really appreciate your participation, and I'm so glad to see how much you guys are enjoying this just as much as myself. It is such an incredible thing to do every single week, and I really appreciate you guys. If you guys are finding this video and you don't know what the Spud Cup is, I'll leave all the information in the description on how to join, how to get involved. Anybody can race. There are no limitations. Please feel free to find out some more information. You can also go to southstreetmedia.com to find out some more info on how to get involved in the world of the Spud Cup. If you guys like this video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe. These videos get posted every single week. This is round 3 of a 12-week season, so there's plenty more blockbuster action to happen before the end of this race season. Other than that, I'm going to leave you guys to it. Thank you again for taking part in this week's race. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!